Welcome in, FA Nation. It is the final Thursday night live stream of the year. Yes, I may have not shaved in a couple days, but I do not look like Howard Bender. Mr. Bender on vacation this week. Tara Roberts a little under the weather. So you have the Z team of me, Ryan Hallam, and of course, joining me, my friend James Grande. Grande, man, they saved the best for last with us, but they certainly didn't save the best for last with this game tonight.
Yeah, yes on both fronts, and I mean Z team. I mean, give ourselves a little more credit.
I
We're
mean, they
probably like
literally asked everyone else except
that's.
for, and then we were the last one.
Well, I
So
think I think they asked you a little bit before me because the
yeah,
message that I got from John was, "Hey, I literally asked everyone else, even people that aren't employed at Fantasy Alarm, but you're next." And I was like, "Oh, okay, thanks. I really appreciate the offer." After that, but yeah, I'm happy to be here. I don't think we could say the same about our good friend Al Michaels in the booth tonight. I'm sure he's going to be a load of fun. This could be for a season of disappointments, right, on Thursday Night Football. I think that's really what it comes down to. Most primetime games in general, but Thursday night specifically. Is this going to be the worst of them all?
yes.
And I know we've seen Russell Wilson in Denver in Thursday Night Football, and that was I didn't think it could get worse. But is this going to be the worst game of the year?
I think so. I wanted to come on and just be like, all right, sorry, Cowboys, don't play him for Tennessee. Good night, everybody, and then
Yeah.
just like cut it off because I think that pretty much sums it up in a nutshell. But I think we should at least probably do a half hour. So yeah, this is really really bad. It would have been bad before. It would have been bad with Ryan Tannehill.
Right.
Obviously, he went on the IR today. He wasn't playing anyway. His season's over. They benched Malik Willis, who, I mean, let's face it, has looked terrible.
Yep.
So Josh Dobbs is going to quarterback for the Titans. They signed him off the practice squad 8 days
8 days
ago,
ago.
and
Yep.
it's just like so many NFL teams are just packing it in. You know, the Raiders benched Derek Carr. The Rams are playing God knows who. I know most of that is injury. It's just there's so many teams that are just like, we're done. We're done, even though the season is still not over. So yeah, I think this Titans obviously. God, so how are they going to play for a division title next week and have no desire or care about this game at all? So it's pretty. I don't want to say embarrassing. I mean, I think the Jaguars are a little up and coming, but it's pretty terrible that the Titans and Jaguars are playing for division title next week.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy how the season took a turn for Tennessee. Like ex-coach of the or reigning coach of the year in Mike Vrabel last year, starting off the year 7-3, and you're like, oh, everyone else in the division stinks, including Jacksonville. Even though everyone was like, Doug Peterson's great, I love Doug Peterson, the culture, and then everything's just changed, and it's largely due to injuries, I'd say, but Tennessee hasn't been great. I mean, they obviously made a huge mistake weapon-wise, where that clip of Vrabel, they fire their GM, and then the clip of Vrabel where they traded AJ Brown on draft night, played a million times, and you're like, oh, that's probably where things started going wrong when the GM decided to trade their best player or one of their best players. And things have really taken a turn. And it is weird to think Titans Jaguars is like the division title. But not too many weeks ago, we were like, oh, this Tennessee team's pretty good. Like they have a very good defense, or at least a defensive front. They're on both sides of the ball. Their front 5 or 6 is elite, and you obviously have Derrick Henry, but Derrick Henry's been fumble happy, and then they lost Dontrell Hilliard, and now they're down to the 3rd and 4th string running backs without Henry. I mean, it's a gross division. The Colts were supposed to be a lot better than they were. Matt Ryan aged horribly, right? Horribly. I mean, I think we knew the end was near for Matt Ryan, but I don't think anyone thought it would be this bad, and maybe that's due to their offensive line. Different discussion for a different day, but this division as a whole stinks. But I get it, what Tennessee's doing tonight. And obviously, I think resting Derrick Henry is their best recipe for success for Week 17 or Week 18. It's a rather long season. They did this a couple years ago with Henry, where they rested him in Week 17 and brought him back for Week 18. If he is dealing with the hip injury, that is, we don't know if it's severe or not, but they already said he's playing Week 18, so obviously he's probably could have played if they if this game was a must win, that he probably would have played. What do you think of the quarterback change? I know before we get into like any of the Vegas odds, like what do you think of? I mean, Willis looked incompetent. As unfortunate as that sounds, he looked like he's not an NFL quarterback in any capacity. Like, do you think that this is them seeing if Dobbs is better for Week 18? Like,
That's a good question.
You know, like, is this literal a tryout for Dobbs Week 18?
I hadn't thought of that, but yeah, that makes a lot of sense because Willis has been terrible. You know, again, I'm sorry, but it's just the truth.
Yeah.
Like he cannot run an NFL offense. Not now. I mean, perhaps he'll improve in his career, but today he can't run an NFL offense. Not that he's exactly surrounded with weapons outside of Derrick Henry, of course. You know, Treylon Burks has been okay when he's been on the field. Robert Woods has been terrible, and the rest of their receivers. I mean, basically they have tight ends to throw to. So it's not like he's blessed with talent around him, but it's just really, really bad. So yeah, I guess I never thought about that, but that's a good way to think because this kid is terrible. Can this guy can they catch lightning in a bottle like a couple teams have this year with quarterbacks? In short stints. Yeah, I guess that's it, and I gotta be honest. Spoiler: Tennessee, I don't think it's going to be any better.
Yeah, I mean, like I've seen some like clips. Joshua Dobbs spent his preseason with Cleveland, and there was some like fun stuff he was doing. Honestly, Malik Willis-esque. Like he's mobile. Yeah. He seems tough. Like he seems kind of like one of those Josh Allen quarterbacks where you're like slide, and then they just don't, and they just lower their shoulder, and that might be what Joshua Dobbs is because he needs to catch on somewhere, and if you show your team your toughness, especially Vrabel being who Vrabel is, like the tough SOB from Ohio State, right, from the Bill Belichick tree, like maybe he does. This is his tryout for Week 18. I don't know, but like getting into the game, right? 13.5. I haven't seen the line move since the Joshua Dobbs because I think it was at 13.5 before Dobbs became the starter. Still 13.5. I think the over has been bet up a little bit. I think it was in the 30s earlier today. I see it at 40.5 now.
I bet it earlier today. I bet it earlier today at 40 even.
Okay.
I couldn't smash the under fast enough. Like I was doing the family times with Sells and Fensty today, and I bet the game during the podcast. Like that's how fast there's no way they're going to get to 40. I mean,
unless Dallas does it. Unless Dallas does it all by themselves.
Right, and you got to figure most times they take their foot off the gas before 40. But I guess the Rams dropped 51, but whatever. Most of the time, I think you don't get to 40 by themselves. Like you said, Tennessee actually, I think the second best run defense in the NFL, just over 80 a game. Their secondary not very good, second most yards, and riddled with injuries. They had a nice little stint at a point earlier in the year, but then I think they're down to like their sixth and seventh corners at this point. So Dak should have a field day. CeeDee Lamb should have a field day. But I still like Zeke. Like I still, with Tony Pollard is also not playing in this game, racking up another person not in this game. I think Zeke is set to have a pretty good game.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think. Look, Dallas still has the chance to win the division, right? So like, I don't think that, like you said, until like they're out of gas or don't need to waste any more gas, they're going to run Zeke heavily. And yes, I think we'll see some Malik Davis mixed in. I mean, Dallas has all year used two running backs, so I don't think that's going to stop anytime soon. But I do think Zeke is going to be the featured guy. And even in tough spots, Zeke has scored touchdowns. Like ultimately, he has 11 rushing touchdowns on the year. I mean, look at I mean, it's crazy. Every game we're scoring touchdowns. No reason to think Dallas isn't going to have good field position every single time they touch the ball. Like it's going to be very tough for Tennessee just to get across the 50. I mean, let's face it. And that's why I think Dallas could score 40 because I'm not sure they might score multiple defensive touchdowns along with their offensive touchdowns, right? Like we just saw that a couple weeks ago when they faced the Colts, 33 unanswered points in the fourth quarter. And it's like, holy smokes, when they're clicking offensively and defensively, like they could just score. They score touchdowns like that on both sides of the ball. They just have those types of playmakers. And like if you're Dallas, I mean, 8 in the box all game. Like Dobbs can run a little bit. You just constant pressure, and that's my worry. You're completely spot on with your analysis about the receivers. 20 touchdowns allowed by Tennessee to receive 19, to opposing receivers. You know what's funny? These two teams have allowed the most touchdowns to opposing receivers this year. They're 1 and 2 respectively. I just wish we could use someone from Tennessee and be like, I don't like if I set the over under at 0.5 touchdowns scored by Tennessee offensively, because I think there is an outside chance that Dak throws like a pick 6, right, or fumbles or something, because Tennessee does have a decent front and could create pressure. Yep. Over under half an offensive touchdown for Tennessee today.
I honestly think under. I honestly think they're going to score 6 points tonight. Like somehow something will happen where they'll fall into field goal range once or twice. But I have no thoughts of them scoring a touchdown. Like again, who's he going to throw to? There's no one to throw to.
Right.
Hooper, Okonkwo. I mean, that's your best weapons. I mean, Dallas is pretty good against the tight end. Hassan Haskins, a 4th-round pick. Let's face it, he's had 11 carries this year.
Yep.
I know Derrick Henry is a beast and but if you had any real hope for your 4th-round pick, he's getting more than 11 carries, and 9 of them in one game. So it's not like they've really even been having him be part of the offense. And now he's going to be, the featured back, Julius Chestnut. It sounds like some hippie rockster from Woodstock.
I thought Joey Chestnut, the competitive hot dog eater, he's looking for a new career path.
He probably has the only thing with him, like he's this little short squat guy. So like, could he find, could they get down under the 5 and he, forces one into the end zone? Maybe. But I think we're just trying to make something out of nothing to make this a little more interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a chance you're right. I mean, Haskins, we saw from reports from Tom Pelissero of NFL Network earlier today that Haskins was in line for a big role. Whatever that means, we've seen that. Is that coach speak? Is that BS? Like we've seen that a whole bunch of times, right? I just, even if it is a big workload, what does a big workload for Hassan Haskins entail? Like how many 3 and outs are in their future?
Right.
And the same thing for Joey Chestnut, who I'm just going to keep calling Joey Chestnut. I can't.
Yeah.
It just is what it is at this point. Sorry, Julius Chestnut, but you're Joey Chestnut to us tonight. At least to me. Brian probably has a lot more respect for your career, and I'm sorry about that. But
probably not.
Probably not. Like, what upside does he bring, and how many snaps is he even going to play? And I know the 1 week that he had the 5 carries, Hassan Haskins was inactive and whatever, but it's just there's no appeal. Like, so let's just. I got a question for you. If we could just. Because I think the approach on, like, if we're doing, like, a Showdown write-up, and you can head over to fantasyalarm.com and look at Pete Cole's Showdown write-up if you guys want to. Pete does a very good job in all sports, NFL included. 5 Dallas guys is probably the approach tonight on DraftKings, and then 1 Titan. If you had to play 1 Titan, what'd you do? So, who is it? Who's the guy? Is it Treylon Burks?
I would say
big play upside.
It's probably Treylon Burks because I don't even know who Trayvon Diggs would be on. I guess if he's on, and they probably won't focus him on one guy because Kelvin Joseph, like their second corner now, they lost Anthony Brown, has been kind of beaten up by other teams. I just don't think this team has the ability to do that.
No.
So I don't know. Is it Hooper? Is it the kicker? Like I don't.
Could be the kicker, especially if we're thinking that there's no touchdowns, right?
Yeah.
If we're thinking there's no touchdowns, 5 Dallas guys and Randy Bullock, or is what's his name? Yeah, Randy Bullock, right? Randy Bullock's their kicker. So
yeah.
Oh boy, what a doozy.
This is why they put us on this game.
This is why they put us. We are on the. This is the midnight talk show. I see a question over on YouTube, Ryan.
Okay.
It is from our man Albert. Also, Ann Dunn, hey fellas, Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you. Happy New Year to as well, Ann. Let's win a championship. Agreed. Question from Albert here, and it has no correlation. Actually does. We have pick 2 full PPR. Ezekiel Elliott, James Conner, Ramondre Stevenson.
I think I'm going Zeke and Stevenson. Connor had a really good game last week, but I don't know. I've never really been a huge fan of his. I know he's the only show in town, at least on the ground for Arizona, but I really like Stevenson. I know he was bad last week, but I think he's going to bounce back.
I'm on the fence about that because you're 100% correct. I think that all 3 of these guys are top 10 backs this week. I think James Conner is that guy. I think the last 4 or 5 weeks he's been tremendous. It's the volume. He's involved in the passing game. And if you look at his workload with Colt McCoy, 5+ targets in both of those games, the offense just looked better overall, right? It did. I mean, they were horrible this past week without Colt McCoy. I want to say, and I want to say Zeke and Stevenson, or Connor and Stevenson, and I would be benching Zeke because let's also factor in if this game is 28-0 at half, right? Let's just say that's the score, 28-3, 21-0, whatever the score is, it's probably a lot to a little. How much second half work does Zeke get compared to Malik Davis?
Fair.
And he could have 2 touchdowns at half. Like that could also could happen.
Which I think is also possible, but I do think he'll also be a little more involved in the passing game with Pollard out, where he's been having maybe 1, 2, 3 receptions lately. Maybe he'll be in the 4, 5, possibly 6 range with Pollard being out. As Pollard has really shown more explosiveness in that. Well, in every facet of the game, but definitely more in the pass game than Zeke has. So I think that's where I like him a lot more this week, is because I think he is going to be the man until it gets out of hand.
Okay. I mean, I think again, Albert, truthfully, I don't think you're in a very good spot because I do think all 3 of those guys are top 10. Ryan and I both agreed on Ramondre, and where we differed is Zeke and James Conner, but again, both top 10 options, I think, on the week. So that's our only question. Lentil over in Discord said, lost in the semis by 7 points. Appreciate all the help throughout the season. Time to shift focus to DFS. Hopefully Thursday DFS, or hopefully Sunday DFS and not Thursday. If it is, we already said it, head over to fansome.com and look at Pete Cole's playbook and just play 5 Cowboys. Who's your favorite? Who's your favorite captain play, Ryan? Favorite captain play of the night? Is it Zeke? Like if you're building a shuttle lineup, you think Zeke is your golden ticket there?
I really like CeeDee Lamb in this one. It's coming off back-to-back 120-yard games. We've talked repeatedly about the Titans secondary here. He's going to line up in the slot a lot. Now we're talking about their 9th corner. Amani Hooker is their slot corner at this point. So, and I'm sure everybody's going to move around some, but Lamb has been more out of the slot lately. I just think he's just on fire on a great matchup. So he's the one I'm leaning towards, I think.
Yeah, and I think that is probably the masses. I think your one of 3 chalky options is probably CeeDee Lamb, Dak Prescott, Ezekiel Elliott, right? Those are probably the 3 most popular captain plays. I would say if you want to be a little different, someone like Dalton Schultz, someone like Michael Gallup. You know who else is probably going to be highly owned in the captain spot?
Cowboys
defense, because then you can afford everybody.
Yep.
Cowboys, for honestly, like 5,800 is probably the most expensive defense I've seen on Showdown, and it's probably still too cheap just given what we know.
Yeah.
I feel like missed the boat here. Like prior to releasing this slate, like read the tea leaves. Like we could have factored some things into the algorithm here, right, Ryan? Like, all right, Tennessee's probably out without everybody here because let's bump Dallas' price up a little bit to make it a little bit more difficult to get their defense in, but doesn't seem to be the case here. 5,800 is a little too cheap for the Dallas defense.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's just no one really. I mean, again, who are we playing in Tennessee. It's just
I think it's got to be the receivers. I'm just looking at it like I know Trayvon Diggs is a very good cover corner, but we've talked about it. I think like the world knows that he will go for interceptions, and sometimes he gets burned because of that. He plays a guessing game, and you know what? Dallas has allowed 20 touchdowns to receivers. Traylon Burks played 80% of the snaps last week. You know, first week back, that's pretty good after the scary concussion that he suffered. I think it's just got to be a pass catcher for Tennessee. I don't think the running backs are going to be involved enough. And Robert Woods was okay last week, right? Like for the purpose that he would serve in this showdown lineup tonight, right?
Just, which is using someone from the other team.
Yeah, which is being forced to pick someone from Tennessee. I think Robert Woods is okay. I think, and it's something that when I was on the Better Sports Network with John on Monday, it's something that we were talking about before the Monday night game. And it was Nick Foles and who Nick Foles worked with, right? Josh Dobbs has probably not worked with the ones once, right? Or
not even on the team.
Well,
he's only
right. He wasn't. Yeah, he worked with nobody
8 days ago.
But for 7 days, he's probably worked with like the Nick Westbrook, the Akines of the world, and the Chris Conleys of the world. So maybe we're taking a shot on those type of players because, and we saw it. Nick Foles right out the gate Monday night targets Jelani Woods, who's considered the Colts' second string tight end. Then he targets Alec Pierce. Like that was like the whole first quarter. It was Jelani Woods, Pierce, probably the guys that he was working with. Just something that I think might factor into who Joshua Dobbs or maybe eventually Malik Willis at this game, because maybe they're running a Houston Texans approach where they're both going to play like every other drive. And Vrabel is just playing checkers or playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers. But I don't know. It's something to consider. Maybe we don't use like these obvious options on Tennessee because I think, Traylon Burks, Robert Woods, Okonkwo are like the main primary guys that everyone's going to funnel to. But maybe we use, maybe the guys that he's been throwing passes to for the last 7 days. I don't know. Maybe that's something,
Yeah, I mean, like you said, at this point, I think you really use this term all the time, throwing darts. But this really is, I think, really just throwing darts and hope. But you're throwing darts at the entire team because you really have no idea where it's going to be. And Conley, I don't see his salary, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's in the hundreds.
It is. I just had it in front of me. It's actually in the thousands. So shout out to him. And it's singular thousand. It is $1,200.
So close.
Yeah, very close. We do have a question, Ryan. One more from Ann Dunn. Again, she not only gave us a Happy New Year in YouTube, she did it in Discord as well. Need to sit one of these three players: yes. George Pickens, Courtland Sutton, Rachaad White.
I think I'm going to sit Pickens because I think he has the biggest chance of those three to lay a complete egg for you.
Baltimore's defense has been dominant. I mean, let's face it, like Baltimore's defense has carried them to the postseason over the last handful of weeks. They have been very, very good. It's going to be a nice cold night, rookie quarterback, a game that got flexed to Sunday Night Football, right? So, I probably sit Pickens. I'd probably be between Pickens and Rachaad White, just given the Fournette usage of last week was pretty impressive. But then Fournette comes out and tweets about his Liz Frank injury that hasn't been on the injury report all year, and then probably someone from the PR team texted him like, "Hey, we have not reported that injury all year, so before we get fined, let's remove it, please." But now that it's in the internet, tough for Leonard Fournette and the Bucs. That's forever on the internet. But yeah, I probably sit Pickens too, but it's definitely playing Sutton, especially Jerry Jeudy.
Yes.
Jerry Jeudy question or limited in practice, and also not only limited in practice. Dulcich didn't practice for 2 straight days, so looks like Sutton could be in line for a big workload. That's it on the question front, though. Anything else about
Okay.
anything else about the game? Is 13.5? Are you taking Dallas? 13.5?
Yeah,
Because I know you
without
said
even a second thought.
you bet the under.
I did bet the under. You made me think twice about it after we talked, but yes, it's too late now. I bet the under.
Well, you can always hedge. You can always hedge.
I could. No, I still feel good about it. I don't know. I don't think the Cowboys will run it up that much. Yes, I bet the under and I bet Zeke to score anytime touchdown. Those are my two
Ooh, nice little
things.
parlay.
Yeah, so like really went way on the ledge with those two.
Really, yeah, you definitely are bold with that. Just so we are clear, the inactives did come out a little bit ago. As expected, Derrick Henry ruled out. That's the only notable for. Oh, Amani Hooker is out.
There we go.
Another bullet down for.
Jesus. Who is going to play second?
Cowboys inactives, Tony Pollard, as we expected. James Washington, who I think Dallas had high hopes for to play. Did he play? He did play last week, right?
Yeah.
Coach's decision last week. Again, I'm sure it's a coach decision. I'm sure that's a T.Y. Hilton decision, right? Like, that's just the role that T.Y. Hilton's probably like, hey, T.Y., thanks for coming. James Washington, see you later. Any T.Y. Hilton love for Showdown slates?
I looked at Prize Picks. I saw his over under at 12.5, and I think that's pretty interesting. Like, that's one catch.
One catch, right? Honest. There's one catch.
I had a 52-yarder last week. It was only the one target, but this is a much easier matchup this week. It was Philly last week, Titans this week, so I think that's a nice little sneaky play. I might throw that on there before we get off the stream before the show starts, before the game starts.
He drew a PI too last week, so shout out Ty doing big things. I mean, do you want what are some? I know you had a couple props that you had written down. Do you wanna break down a few of the props? We don't have any more questions. It was Ann and Albert. Shout out to the alphabet there.
There you go.
That was it. Nothing else. Lentil gave us a shout out on the season. What are some of the props you like for tonight, Ryan?
Josh Dobbs 155.5. Like what? I don't know if I've seen a passing prop that low. That's really, really, really bad. And I still think that might be too high.
Yeah. I mean, I was joking with John earlier today, and I said I think he put something together, and I said, did you take the under on Malik Willis? This is before they made the quarterback change. And I was like, did you take the under on Malik Willis passing yards? I bet you it's like 99.5. And but I was like serious, right? Like, it's like, how could you even justify it being higher? But you're right, where it's like, how can we even justify 155.5? We can't, right? Like, it's
the only way is because they're also on their third running back, so like maybe
they're just forced. They're just forced to chuck it.
I guess they have to have. I mean, it's just as likely to succeed chucking it as it is running it at this point.
Right.
Dak's at 230.5. I think that's pretty low. I think he's been over 250 like 5 of the last 6 weeks. Yep. I'm sure if he's got 1.5 passing touchdowns, he's had that on like 6 of the last 7. So I like the Dak props tonight. Zeke is at 70.5. That's going to come down to, again, how much does he do before the game? But we're assuming the game gets out of hand. Watch the Titans win this freaking thing.
No, there's no.
But I think Zeke at 70.5 is a damn good bet. Lamb 71.5 I think is pretty low. And then the Titans. I don't even know if we need to talk about the Titans.
Nope. If you want a little leverage on the those were presented by Prize Picks there.
Yes.
Underdog Fantasy, another partner of ours, Ryan, has Zeke at 67.5. So even a little better line over there. Also, they have 0.5 rushing touchdowns for Zeke. I would probably bet the over, considering he's done that in 8 straight games.
That's yeah.
So
I guess that's hard because it's like, what are you going to go to 1.5 and then no one's going to bet that?
You can't bet it. You can't make it any higher, but just don't offer it because it's free money for free money for everyone else. Like, all they're offering for Blake Davis is rushing yards. Like, you could do a lot with Zeke. Like you mentioned, his prop is 1.5 receptions. Like you said, Zeke was always involved in the passing game until this year. He was a very good pass catcher, and then he wasn't because Tony Pollard is that guy. I don't know. Just don't like that. Just feels like free money doing the over half a touchdown for Zeke. Maybe they know something we don't. Edward getting a question in at the bell here, Ryan. He says, "Yo, start 2 running backs, 2 receivers, and 1 flex." So his whole team. Do you have a pen or a paper, or do you have a photographic memory and you good?
I have a very old man memory. I didn't even remember how to do this stream until about 5 hours ago, and Matt Sells reminded me. So let's just go for it and hope. I'll type.
All right. First off, shout out to Matt Sells, our producer for today's show. Shout out to Matt Sells for everything he does at Fantasy Alarm. Jack of all trades, including 3-time NASCAR Rider of the Year. In case y'all forgot, Edward, his team, 2 running backs, 2 receivers, 1 flex. So we're basically we're between Zeke, Ramondre, Kamara, who's popped up in the injury report for 2 days in a row, DeAndre Swift, Jerick McKinnon, Chris Godwin, Jalen Waddle, and CeeDee Lamb. So 2 running backs, 2 receivers, 1 flex. You're basically benching 2 of those. Edwards also said, "Ha ha ha, sorry, big question, LOL."
That's all right, Edward. That's why I'm
here.
You, I'm benching Swift right off the bat just because of his usual lack of volume. He's a dynamic player, but given the other options that you have here, Agreed. He's an immediate cut. Second one is tough. First look, I'm leaning towards Waddle with Bridgewater in there. It also just goes to I like a lot of these other options. You have to check out the Kamara injury, like you said. McKinnon has just been a beast, catching the ball lately. He's tough to sit right now. So, and Waddle, he's had a couple big games, but it's been 2 long touchdowns in the last 2 weeks. And if those didn't come, they would kind of be soft games. So I'm going to say Swift and Waddle, but the second one is really, really tough.
Yeah. I'm indifferent because we saw good results from Bridgewater when he started.
Yes,
right. But granted, it was against Minnesota, and everyone's passing well against Minnesota. We just saw Daniel Jones throw for 350 yards last week against Minnesota.
Patriots secondary hasn't been all that great either, but it is also in New England. If it was in Miami, I'd feel a little better.
It is worth noting, New England, all 3 of their starting corners have not practiced. Or have practice on a limited basis. So I'm gonna definitely bench Swift with you. The question becomes easy if Kamara doesn't play. You just bench Kamara in that regard. I'll bench Waddle with you and pray. Johnny D says he's in the finals facing off against my injury-riddled cousin. Hopefully your cousin is healthy and not injured, and it's his team that's injured. Johnny, sometimes context clues helps. I'm hoping he doesn't notice he still has Tony Pollard in his starting lineup. Johnny.
You do not say anything.
Johnny, there is no rule in the playbook that says you have to say anything to him. This is his responsibility. It's his team. He's the manager. He signed up to be the manager of his fantasy team. Now, got this far. He's in the championship. He probably will remember. Don't say anything to him. That's his fault. And make sure you have a text right after the lineup block to everyone out that goes in the family and say, Johnny screwed up. But again, hopefully Johnny's okay and not actually injured, and hopefully it's just his roster that's injured. Oh, we have another question here. 2 questions.
Was that his question? Was about if he should say something about?
Wait, it should be a bench. It should be bench 3 because he listed 8 names. Oh, we have to bench 1 more for Edward.
Oh. I just deleted everybody.
Zeke. Damn. We're playing Zeke. We're playing Ramondre.
Yeah.
We're
Kamara. We have to watch.
We're watching Kamara. You're playing Godwin at receiver. You're playing Lamb at receiver. So we're benching McKinnon or Waddle essentially.
Well, we got to bench both of them because we didn't bench enough.
Yeah, I guess or Kamara. So we have Kamara, Swift. So here's the 4. We're benching 3 of these: Kamara, Swift, McKinnon, Waddle.
Yes, Kamara plays. He's in. Kamara's out. Obviously, he's fine. Swift and Waddle, and then if you need the third one,
McKinnon.
2
more questions, and then I think we're probably skedaddle. And done. Another question. Need one receiver, one flex. Deonta Foreman, Devin Singletary, Hollywood Brown, Brandon Ayuk. You're starting one receiver, one flex.
I am starting Foreman and Ayuk there.
I agree. Trevor Lawrence or Gardner Minshew. So I'll just jump in. Jacksonville can still make the playoffs without a division title, or they, like, in theory, have things to play for Trevor Lawrence. So I would go Trevor Lawrence over Minshew.
Yeah, and they also said they're not benching anyone. They said they're playing everybody, so I agree. Trevor Lawrence.
And then need two in a PPR, J.K. Dobbins, Miles Sanders, Devin Singletary, Zonovan Knight need two.
I'm gonna go. I think Dobbins and Knight. I don't know that Sanders. I think is also dinged up. I think he's going.
Practice today.
He did practice today.
Practice today.
I just feel like Philly is kind of taking it easy with their horses going into the playoffs. I don't know. Would he have 9 carries the last time he played? So I'm a little worried about Sanders' volume in this one. Dobbins has looked good. Singletary, I know he's had some good games. He just doesn't do anything for me. They've been giving James Cook more work each week, and he's been doing stuff with it. So I'm going to take the bookends on that one.
So we'll agree to disagree, because I think Sanders. I think the thing with Philly is interesting because they still don't have the 1 seed clinched, and right. I think that's why we're seeing Jalen Hurts come back. They don't want to go to Week 18 having to win. I think, like, Hurts practiced today, Sanders practiced today. Hurts hadn't thrown a football, and then he was suddenly on the practice field. Seemingly took the Russell Wilson Wolverine blood to get back on the field. Sanders, the same thing. Yes, he had that critical fumble last week. Dude, he's been so good. I feel like if there's the one guy in that group that has been the most reliable, has been Miles Sanders. Only once this year, he hasn't had double-digit carries. The Zonovan Knight thing is interesting because he was good with Mike White under center and then wasn't good with Mike White. And then J.K. Dobbins has been J.K. Dobbins. Like, it's just so roller coaster, right? It's like up, it's down, it's injured, it's up, it's down, it's injured. And then Singletary splitting time with James Cook. You never know who's going to be the lead back there. I'll go Dobbins and Sanders, and I'll go Sanders over Knight. But I think it's definitely a consideration. Johnny D, a lot of questions here. Ryan, I know we were going to get out of here, but meant his lineup.
Hey, we're here for the people.
He did say his lineup is injury filled, not his cousin. So good on your cousin. Happy for your cousin not being injured. He has Pollard, Kupp, Christian Watson, Claypool, Olave. So yeah, definitely tough. And then he said, any news with Hurts still in the IR? Never was on the IR, but he practiced today and he was throwing football. So good sign for his ascension to Week 17. Doesn't mean he's going to play, but good sign that he was throwing footballs. And that's it, I think. No more questions, I think. Johnny D, Edward, and filled up our question box here, Ryan, over on YouTube and over in Discord. And unless there's anything else you got, I think Matt Sells just said he has dinner ready on the table. I'm just kidding. He didn't. Matt Sells didn't say that. He doesn't even eat dinner, I don't think.
I don't know that he ever eats.
I know.
I know, man. I'm good. Good luck to everybody in the game tonight. Try not to vomit up your dinner watching this horrendous display of football as the Cowboys are probably going to walk all over the Titans tonight. And root for my under and the Zeke anytime touchdown.
I'm with you.
Tweet me at Fighting Chance to celebrate with me when it happens. Hello?